Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well, and welcome to another update on the markets. In this particular video, I want to tell you about one particular stock, one particular airline stock that I'm actually buying, and I'm actually looking to buy more of it, potentially in the next few weeks and months. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, the airline industry has been suffering quite a bit over the last 12 months, or over the last 10 months anyway, for obvious reasons. As I'm sure you know, the pandemic and the coronavirus crisis has caused huge problems for airline industries. For several months, of course, that we were in lockdown, so there were much less traveling. And even now, it's very difficult to actually travel with airplanes with all the situation. Until we get the whole vaccine situation sorted out, I think it's going to take some time for a lot of these airlines to be able to recover and go back into profit. So a lot of these airline companies right now are truly suffering and doing very badly. A lot of these airline companies have already reported massive losses, and some of them actually may go bankrupt potentially in the next few years, maybe sooner. So you might well be asking, why would I want to buy the stock of a company that might go bankrupt, right? Okay, so here's the question I want to address in this video. So let me first of all begin by saying this before we discuss the charts. Firstly, I am not happy with what the government did in regards to these airline companies. As I'm sure you know, a lot of these airline companies got massive bailouts. I mean, corporate socialism. So whereas people, just ordinary people like yourself, people like your mom and dad, whereas they were left on their own, so politicians said, oh, we can't help you because that's socialism. But no, it's okay for them to give handouts to Wall Street and all these airline companies because, oh, that's not socialism? No, that's corporate socialism, right? That's socialism for the rich. That's okay, apparently, right? So anyway, the fact is, guys, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's hypocritical, absolutely. So I don't agree with the massive bailouts and handouts these airline companies got. And by the way, you guys know what they did. These airline companies took those bailouts and they still made a lot of their employees unemployed. Anyway, putting all that aside, I realize I have to focus on the charts. So focusing purely on the price action and the charts, and also just looking at these airline companies, you will see that airlines like, for example, American Airlines, and this is a chart of American Airlines, hasn't done much at all. I mean, look at it. I mean, it's still withering. It had a little bit of a bounce, but still, look where American Airlines is at relative to its peak back some time ago. And by the way, if you look at the chart of United Airlines, you can see the same pretty much thing. I mean, massive crash in this particular stock, and even now, it's not done much at all. The bounce so far has been abysmal, as you can see here so far. And by the way, across the board, most airline companies, not just American Airlines or United, but I would say British Airways, EasyJet, a lot of these airline companies are truly suffering, and they've been struggling in this market environment. And is it possible some of them may go bankrupt in the next few years? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think the big names will necessarily go bankrupt, but some of the less well-known smaller companies may well go bankrupt and insolvent in the next few years or so, maybe even sooner, because a lot of these companies, again, are truly struggling and making enormous losses. And guys, I want to be clear about this. I am not putting a single penny, I'm not putting a single dime into any of these passenger airline companies. And notice what I'm saying here. I'm avoiding passenger airline companies like American Airlines or United Airlines or British Airways, EasyJet, whatever, okay? I'm avoiding these particular type of stocks or, again, passenger airline companies. The reason is because of risk. There's too much risk right now, even now, with these particular stocks and companies. Some of them, I don't know which ones, but some of them may go bankrupt, and I just don't want to end up being in that kind of situation where I'm holding the stock of a worthless company. Okay. However, guys, there is one particular stock or company that I do like. And it's not a passenger airline as much, but it's the manufacturer of airlines. That's why I said airlines in quotation marks. Take a look at this chart of Boeing. So BA, or Boeing, is the company, of course, I'm sure you're aware, that manufactures a lot of our airplanes. So yeah, this is the one that I do like. Just take a look at the price action. Massive bounce, massive rally we've seen in this particular stock. Unlike the muted, rather abysmal action in some of the other stocks like American Airlines or United, we've seen a massive rally jump in Boeing. That tells you something very interesting. This jump has actually managed to break through this regression channel and resistance levels. I like that. And yeah, it is a bit overbought, so I think we could see a pullback. But here's the bottom line, guys. Notice the price. The price of Boeing stock is about $200, about $199. $200, whereas the price of, for example, American Airlines, about $12. Now, by the way, 20 years ago, when I was much more naive, and obviously 20 years ago, I didn't have a clue about the markets back then, but honestly, 20 years ago, you know what I would have said? I would have said, well, American Airlines is cheaper. I mean, it's dirt cheap, 12 bucks, so it's better value. Therefore, I'm going to go buy that and avoid something more expensive like Boeing. That is crazy talk. That is insane. You see, guys, I've learned my lesson after the foolish decisions I made 20 years ago, and I've learned now that there is a reason why something is much more expensive than another stock, okay? So there is a reason why Boeing is much more expensive, $200 as opposed to $12 American Airlines, because of risk. There is much more risk attached to American Airlines or companies like that, passenger airlines. Because as I just said, a lot of these companies could truly go bankrupt and could struggle. If they don't go bankrupt, they're going to be struggling for some time. So for that reason, guys, I'm avoiding passenger airlines. By the way, just to be clear, that is a personal decision I'm making for myself. I'm not saying you should do the same thing, okay? So I'm not saying you should avoid airlines too, like that. No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying, because of the risks attached to it, I'm personally avoiding passenger airline companies, and I'm leaning towards, again, manufacturer of airlines like Boeing. By the way, in a separate video, I'll explain to you there's another reason why I'm choosing Boeing and why I'm not choosing passenger airlines, okay? It's more to do with the long-term potential of these companies. So guys, when you think about it, you have to ask yourself this question. Is it likely that some of the passenger airline companies could be still struggling in a few years or maybe go bankrupt in the next few years? Yeah, absolutely. Do we know which ones? No, we don't know. And in any case, I don't want to be taking that risk. For me, that's a gamble. But as far as Boeing is concerned, Boeing, again, a much more solid company. Again, I'm not a fundamentals guy, as I'm sure you know, I'm a technicals guy. But purely because of the technicals of this company, and also because it's just a better company with much less risk attached to it. Okay, I'm not saying there's no risk, but I'm just saying it has lower risk than, say, a passenger airline company. Because Boeing is the manufacturer of these airplanes, to me, I think that's a better bet, personally. I'm not saying there's no risk, but again, for me personally, I'm looking to add to my position, my long position on Boeing. Now, I should say I did buy some Boeing stock when it broke through the resistance, this trend line, this regression channel. So I bought some recently, not a lot, just a small amount. I put a stop loss underneath the October lows. So if Boeing drops and goes below that level, then that's how I'm out. I'll take the loss. But again, I'm looking to add to my position at any pullback. So any pullbacks to the averages, for example, pullback down to the 50 moving average, I'm scaling in with small positions. And again, I want to be clear about this. I'm going in with small positions, not a massive position here, again, because of risks. I'm putting a stop loss underneath the October lows as well, okay? And again, this is a long-term trade, so I'm looking to hold this potentially for the next few years. So again, we'll see what happens. All right, guys, make sure you watch my next video, because in the next video, I'm going to tell you one key question I always ask before I consider buying any stock. All right, guys, so make sure you watch my next video on that. Thanks so much indeed. I look forward to seeing you in the next video update. Cheers, guys. Bye now.